There are more women and more underrepresented minorities that could run companies. There's no doubt about it. I'm not the only one. I happen to be the one found at the time, the one that society as a whole allowed to play the game. There are a lot more people ready to play the game, but you guys just don't allow it to happen as often. And one of the things that started happening at that time was a lot of discussion about how spectacular and amazing I was, and I decided just recently that the reason why those words were used is because it made it easier for you guys to accept me in. If I were just an ordinary person, then you would have to start thinking about why I'm the only person sitting there.
Hey, she just said something right there, didn't she? She said she was one of the only ones allowed in. And that's really an important point, right? It's like who we're allowing in is who's in. And, so often as we look at the big picture, history is written. Typically, when we look back, you go, the one that wrote himself into the victory position and wrote his competitor out. And so as long as we're looking at everybody else more like competitors, then, and you're writing the history, you're going to write your competitor out, you're going to write yourself into it. So Ms. Burns had a great point there. You get allowed in and then you get to write your own history and you write yourself into the history book. And as the gentleman said in the video we were watching yesterday with Tasunda Duckert, history is tough to see when you're in the middle of it. So anyway, before I start getting too philosophical here, we're back with She's the Boss, Building Her. And today we got a special guest. I want to go ahead and bring him in because Pimpirelli, who really needs no introduction, is a frequent face, anytime I'm doing something in the community. And I like to see my man JQ as often as I can. I had to ask him this morning, where you at, man? And he's like, no, man, I'm in the H. But I'm like, you never know, because if you follow him on IG like I do, my man he'll be all over, man. And he'll be next to this person, and you're all over, man.
Oh, man. We doing big things, man. We doing big things, brother. We are blessed, everything that's been going crazy, just trying to keep make sure that the lights stay on at the house, make sure the lights stay on at the station, make sure the stuff be good, and, continue to inspire people, man, because, a lot of people fell down during this pandemic and, they were looking for motivation. So I was out there trying to motivate people, stay strong and so they can, walk long and go hard in the paint.
That's it, man. The only thing I would change about that is take the word trial, because I don't see you trying, man. I see you doing. You know what I mean? Hey, the saying is this, man. It's a do, not try. And there's a comma in there. It's not do, not try. It's do, comma, not try. See, you don't. I already know you. I already know you, man. Do, comma, not try. Yeah, Cam, if you real slick, you'll get that into the bottom of the screen. Do, comma, not try. Anyway, all right. So look, the purpose of the show today is CEOs, female CEOs, and I think, as you know, there's only 2 female CEOs, Black female CEOs in the Fortune 500. I was kind of surprised. I'm not going to get too crazy with some of the slick talk that we got out there, because I ain't trying to make a star out of a troll. But some of these cats out here commenting, man, about a woman's place and where a woman belongs in society and all this kind of mess. It's really kind of disappointing, because we got enough enemies. Man, I wouldn't think that we'd have to fight the enemy within so often, but apparently we do. It is what it is. But, we're here today to kind of try to bring some equality to the picture. And because I think it's kind of a man's role, a king's role is to make sure the queens are right there. And the queen's role is to make sure the king is right there. So we're doing it together. Yes. So today, man, one of the things we was going to talk about, Pimpirelli, is business descriptions. And business descriptions are important because there's too many people out there. And I don't know about you, man, but like, for instance, you got homies in business. So let's talk about like some of the various businesses you got people that, men and women. Let's go ahead and do both so it's diverse, but let's come back to women in a sec. But like, talk about some of the businesses that people in. What industry, what kind of business is it?
Man, I've been saying I've got some people that are associates of mine that have been getting into the restaurant business real big, independent car dealerships. I've seen people been creating Black-owned car washes in my city. And then just really getting into investments and stuff. A lot of my associates are getting really into investments. I've seen more women, creating restaurants, becoming chefs, catering services that are doing extremely well, especially during the pandemic when, people didn't know how to cook. I know a lot of ladies that made a lot of money, they knew how to whip them meals up like you at Maestro's or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that's, and the thing, I don't know if many people, we're going to address it towards the bottom of the show real quick today, but, I don't know if a lot of people really think about the difference between business to business and business to consumer. And so everything you named just now, at least from what I could tell, restaurants, car dealerships, car washes, investments, even the chefs and stuff like that are more of a business to consumer type model. And so I do want to talk at some point in time about what a business to business model is, because I'm big about, look, and I think everybody's got to pursue their dream, right? Whatever your passion is, you got to pursue that, or you should. Passion, though, is transitory. So we can talk about that. I've been passionate about a lot of, now it's just my wife now, but I was passionate about a few women in my life, and it's come and gone. And so I try to tell people sometimes passion's not enough. You got to do what you're really built for. Mm-hmm. And something's going to last or endure, last forever. But when we start talking about building, say generational wealth, so it's going to pass from me down to my seed and then to their seed and so on and so forth. Sometimes when I look at some of these businesses that were started, and it's just my opinion, but we may not be thinking big enough. So, and I think sometimes people go, because like you do business with any corporations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, okay, they got the bag.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like when you do business with an individual got to reach in their wallet and pull the wallet out, and they're giving you money after they already paid tax on it.
Mm-hmm.
So they already kind of like, they hand you the dollar halfway.
Yeah, and the hand shaking a little bit.
But when you're doing business with businesses, they actually get taxed on what they after they've spent their money. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if a lot of people realize that businesses essentially really grow from spending. Yeah. They spend money to make more money. So if you can position yourself as somebody that a business wants to spend money with, mm-hmm. then the business will spend gladly with you if you make them more money. With a consumer, when you're doing business with them, you position yourself as something that's going to make their life better, but they're looking at you as something that's costing them money. And so it's a little bit, it's a hike. Either one is a hike, but you just got to make the decision which one's more important to you. And again, which one's going to deliver that generational wealth that we talk about, So one of the things that I think is important is like the whole idea, the concept is like, what do you know? And, when we were in school, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I remember when, well, let me back up. We for this particular show, we've got women out there that are already bosses. Yes. Like, a lot of them, I'm sure.
Yep.
And you were just talking. So bosses of corporations, they already involved with their own companies. They got their own thing going, whatever. What's up, Larry? Back in the picture. Larry commented on the Facebook Live. So the women that are already CEOs, maybe we want to talk about ways that they can grow their business. So for some of them, one of the things they can consider is trying to get into doing business with business, whatever. But we also have some women that haven't yet started a company or started that CEO journey, so to speak, and want to. And then we've got some women that are inside of a corporation. And let's face it, like when we saw Ms. Burns at the beginning of the show, she's not, she's a CEO or was a CEO of Xerox. She was CEO of somebody else's company. The shareholders actually own that company. But you got women inside of these organizations that have hit that sort of glass ceiling, whatever you want to call it, but want to be elevated to the CEO role. So addressing all three, when we start talking about information is key.
Yes.
So, it's crazy, bro. It's like, okay, so we was in school. Do you, think of grade school, do you remember the smartest people?
Oh, yeah.
Like in the class?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what was their characteristics?
Oh man, they was real quiet. They was always in the front of the class, and they was always up there. Yes, Mr. Dipper. I know the answer, and they would come up and then and he'd be like we all looking like, ooh, If we want to question, we ducking down. We like, hold on. Or you get into a trigonometry class, and they on the board, and they making all those. And when you first see it, you be like, man, what kind of language is this they writing up in there? And they're knocking it out fast too. Not that real, and there it is.
And there it is. Okay, so look, man. So here's what I'll tell you. Sometimes I think we complicate things, right? So the way I look at education is like this. So, and I was there with you too. And look, I sat at the back of the class. I had my eyes on things, and it wasn't what was going on the board. And so, but what I realized very quickly after school was that most of what we call intelligence is really just memory. Right? Because most of the people that are saying, oh, he's so smart or she's so smart, really, man, they have a great memory. They've committed things to memory. So if people got an A on the history exam, they memorized all the answers. If people got an A on spelling, they memorized how to spell stuff. If people got an A on math, like you say, trigonometry, they memorized the formula. It was really just memory. It was the ability to retain information. And so, I've gone on to believe that money's important, right? Gold, nice cars, trips, all these things, businesses, companies, all that. But really, for the most part, all of it is based on just information. And so information is the most valuable thing on earth.
Yes.
Information created everything, the oil business, the technology business, all of that. Yes. And so for a CEO, for any of the women, and one of the things, and I know you and I can dance our way, because I know you got the gift of gab, man. We can talk to anybody, talk them into something, talk them out of something, whatever, and that's what we've relied on. Yeah. But like you said, them smartest people, they were quiet because they were listening. They were trying to commit everything to memory probably. And so one of the things I would say is if you want to be a CEO, you have to be an expert. Yeah. And one of the things that frustrates me about, when I talk to people and they say somebody comes to me and says, hey, JT, I want you to invest in this company. And you start asking them what the company is, Q, and the first thing they say is they be like, well, I do. Dog, the instant you say, I'm thrown off because it means it's really just a pausing technique to give you time to think. And if you got to think about something you are expert on, you must not be an expert.
Talk that talk.
So it's almost, I think the two go hand in hand. Being a successful CEO, female CEO, and that's what we're talking about now. If we want to be, and again, we've already talked about, you got to challenge you're a woman. Now you add the fact you got to challenge you're a black woman. Now you got to add to the fact you're a black woman that might be raising children. Now you got to add to the fact you're a black woman that may not have completed her education and is raising children. Yeah. You've got these factors against you. Don't let one of the factors be you're not an expert. True. And so, we've got to start getting ourselves in the mindset. So once a woman decides, and I think you said restaurant, car dealership, car washes, I mean, how much of these people, when you talk to them, do you feel like they're experts at what they're doing?
A couple of them, and then some of them, like, they winging it.
Winging. Hey, bro, you say 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
Dabbling, that kind of thing. And that's not going to create CEOs. There's a very clear distinction between the women that are CEOs and the women that are not. Yeah. And one of those is the fact that they're not winging it, to use your terminology. I love that. There ain't no winging it when you're a CEO. And so information is the most valuable thing to a CEO. What types of things would you say, if you had to guess, would be important for a CEO to know about a company?
Especially one thing is everything about the company from the rooter to the tooth, everything, and be able to repeat it without a pause. I mean, just consecutively look straight now and go with it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think one of the things is being able to repeat it, but knowing why you need to know it is important too. And so it's like, okay, in school we got tested, and you needed to know it for the test, and after the test you forgot it. Or some of it maybe you retain. But if you talk to people about higher education, for the most part, a lot of people say, yeah, I got it. Yeah. When you talk to people that went to school, how much of it do you apply today? And a lot of people tell you not much. You just kind of let it go. Like that information came in and then went out, as soon as you was done with the test. With a CEO, that information stays, but it's not just what you know about your own company. It's what you know about your competitors, their business. Like, what do you think they're doing that's making them successful? What do you think they're doing that's making them weak? And we're going to do a SWOT analysis later in the series. It's what you know about your employees. It's what you know about your vendors, your partners, all of the people that you associate with, say suppliers. If you're a cook, then you must know a lot about the people that you're getting your food from.
Yes.
The spices, the actual vegetables, the meats, with the origin of those products. If you're a wine person at a restaurant, you're an owner, I forget what the sommelier or whatever, this wine expert that they've got in the big restaurants. That person knows where the wine came from. They know the history of the wine. And so being an expert, but knowing not just about your business, but knowing about your competitor's business, knowing about your vendors, knowing about your employees, knowing about where you are today, from my perspective, Q, like that's what I would call sort of GPS. And GPS is no good to you. You can tell it where you're trying to go, but if it doesn't know where you are today or right this minute, how's it going to get you to B when you can't tell it what A is? And so that's one of those areas that I feel like most of these ladies out here, if they want to get to that point, there's got to be more time commitment. But I guess that's one of the challenges. So when it comes to being an expert, let's talk about an intangible. I'm assuming you spend, and I don't know, maybe not. I mean, you tell me, bro. Like when you first started DJing, how much time did you spending in your free time?
Oh, man. I remember one time, I think the longest I went was on a weekend, and it was 24 hours with maybe, and I was eating lunch at the same time, practicing. And then on the most part, every day, 4 to 5 hours minimum a day, because it was my passion.
Okay.
And I want to learn every, when you watch I was watching Kid Capri or Jazzy Jeff, I wanted to be able to do that, but do it in my own way. So, I had to practice.
Okay. Yeah, I'm putting this quote. I'm putting this quote up on the. You just made me think about it. Put that up there, Cam, when you got a second. Yeah, and the reason I say this, man, we'll put this up. This is what people don't understand is that CEO position that you're looking for, whether, again, it's within the organization that you're currently at, it's within the business that you already have, it's with the business that you're about to start. In order to be an expert, you have to do it in your spare time. What does that mean? Translation. It means there is no spare time. It's kind of like spare change. I remember the old Robin Harris, he said, the guy came up to him and said, "You got some spare change?" And he was like,
what is spare change?
What is spare change? And really, like, as an expert, man, if you're going to become an expert at something, there is no spare time. Because every minute becomes absorbed with becoming an information sponge, where you literally are soaking up everything that you can possibly learn about your desired business, because you have a higher probability of getting that A+. Like the people you said that were in the class that answered the questions right appeared to be the smartest people. Really, it was just memory.
Yes.
It was really just memory, and they committed it to memory. But in this particular case, we're talking about you being the smartest person in class on your business, your competitors, the people you compete with, your employees, your vendors, suppliers, all the people that provide product for you. And you become an expert on that. And that puts you in a better position to be the CEO. Yep. The thing that I think is interesting about most of the people I talk to these days is they'll say, "I've got this idea of something that I want to do right now." Like you probably got one. Like think about something an idea for a business that you had. And you maybe later on you saw it, you looked up and you saw somebody else had it. or you thought it was a great idea, but you decided not to do it, whatever it was. But you were kind of like, this is a great idea. Got anything?
Yeah, it was some gadgets. Some gadgets that I saw one time. I remember as a teen, I was thinking big business as a teen. It was some gadgets, and I can't remember what exactly that gadget was, but I came up with a name for it. And I was watching TV, and it was like 2 weeks later, I saw the name of it come across the TV. A person had the same idea I was thinking about, but they had, and it was one of them infomercials. And I'm like, wow. I was like, man. So that taught me, anytime that you have an idea, it's good to quickly run with it, get a copyright on the name and stuff, because some people can be thinking the similar and run with it and take your idea that you had and make millions and billions.
Yeah. Which brings me to how do we know when? Because we talked about, like, you gotta have information is key, and then we talked about you got to become an expert on that particular information. But at which point do you have to stop gathering that information and execute? Like, when is enough enough? And so, what you've talked about essentially gave the example. You had a great idea, and maybe you knew enough about it. Like, maybe you should have built a prototype and gotten it to somebody, an investor, one of these sort of engineering experts that might have said, okay, Pimpirelli, I'm gonna put this together, and then we're gonna take this to somebody and try to get it launched, get it protected. The truth is, it takes a long time to get a patent, takes a long time to get a copyright or a trademark, but it doesn't mean you can't launch it. And it doesn't mean you can't be the first market or early to market. Sometimes there's there's an advantage to people that sort of follow sometimes anyway. So you could still improve on it. The point I was going to make though with that is, there's how do you know when you're an expert? And there's a number of things that I just don't know that people are comfortable doing. So I'll talk to somebody, for instance, do you ask people, for instance, I know, like, what do you consider yourself an expert at?
I definitely feel like I'm an expert in DJing. I feel like I'm an expert in programming, radio stations. Those would be two things that I know that that hands down that I got down pat.
Okay.
Bam.
Yeah. All right. So this is the scale in the bathroom analogy, right? So a lot of people got that scale in the bathroom, but they don't want to step on it. But they're sitting there. But the truth, that scale will tell you the truth. And sometimes you either want to know it or you don't. If you're working out, I'm perfectly fine with it. But if I ain't been working out, then I'm probably gonna be like, nah, I don't want to do that right now. Yeah. One of the only way, and many ways that because you can test it, right? So you could have taken that gadget to market. You could have just taken it to market, but you wouldn't know if you had enough information at that time. One of the ways to know when you've got enough is to step on the scale. And so what I find with a lot of people is they love their idea so much that they don't want constructive criticism of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like a coach or a team owner, in a lot of instances. And I think when we're talking about women CEOs, you don't ever want to fall in love with your idea. And I would tell people, I don't want to be right.
Yeah.
I want to be rich. And there's a difference. And so if you fall in love with ideas, then essentially you attach yourself to your own opinion, when if your opinion was what made you rich, we'd all be rich. Opinions don't do anything for a bank account. And so you have to take that idea out. Now, who do you think you should take that idea to get constructive feedback? So let's just take programming. If you was going to do programming, I don't want to get too much in your mix. Let's just make something up. Let's say you had a marital consulting business, and that's what you did. You did marital consulting. How would you find out if you were an expert, if you knew enough? Just give me some examples.
I would go to someone that had been doing it longer than me, and I would sit there and I would let them, basically like they were coming to me for consulting, and go through the process and everything of a consulting about what we're talking about, and then after let him or her tell me how I did. And I have to be willing to accept it, man. You bombed it, but you got potential, or you did good, but you got to do this, that, and the other. And you can't let your ego get in the way of you taking that information or that constructive criticism, because a lot of people can't accept constructive criticism. They shut down, and then they're like, oh, and they get their nerves, or they get emotional, and that you don't want no one else to see, and that because then it shows a sign of weakness.
Yeah, man. That you hit so many points right there, man. Attaching yourself to the opinions of other people, we're taught to not do it. So if somebody, looks down on you for a particular reason, your mom was going to tell you, ignore them. They don't know. You got potential. You good and all that. But in a professional world, attaching yourself to the opinions of other people, in some respects, all right, there we go. I'm not sure. Did we drop for a second there? Use the word you said you're gonna let them give you some feedback. And that might have been a little bit of a slip, but look, you're gonna let them give you feedback because it's a choice. Really, it's not a choice.
Okay.
In a CEO seat, the opinions of other people are it's a requirement. And the only way you're an expert at what you're doing is if you get feedback from people from all directions. And you have to take the opinions from people that you don't like.
Yeah.
And you have to take opinions from people that don't agree with you. And so in the boardroom, for instance, if it's why they don't have two CEOs, but the responsibility of the CEO is to listen to the other people in the C-suite and also listen to the board and also listen to the shareholders. And so the big picture is you always going to be listening to the outside. And it's the only way you ever know if you're an expert is if you get feedback enough. I heard stories about Obama when he was president that essentially 44 would have people come in and sit down with him. And it might be 6, 7, 8, 10 people at the table. And he would say, what do you think? And they would respond. And he would say, what do you think? And they would respond. If somebody was quiet, he would say, what's wrong with you? You know the rules. And they'd have to give their feedback on a decision he was going to make. And then essentially he would say, okay. And everybody would, move around. And then I guess Biden would stay if you hear Biden say it and in some of the books. And then Biden would give his feedback, and then Biden would leave. And I'm assuming that the president would probably also talk to the first lady a little bit sometimes, and get that kind of feedback and probably talk to God a little bit. But the truth is, if you've not been talked to like a child or not been talked down to, then you're not asking for enough advice. Mm-hmm. And that's really a painful position for a CEO to be in. You got to surround yourself with people that are well-intended, like just a hater. I don't want a hater's advice, but I do want the general public's advice if it's coming from a good place. Prayer, obviously, meditation, that's part of it. Won't get too deep, but God ain't going to talk to you like an equal.
No.
You see what I'm saying? And so the job of a CEO is really, and so a lot of women, and this is not a judgment, men do it too, but they fall in love with their idea. And then they don't want to get that constructive advice. So when we talk about being an expert, when you do this business description, which later today, we're going to put out worksheets that allows people to go in and fill out the business description. You have to know the business from the perspective of you as a CEO, from the perspective of your competitors, from the perspective of your employees, from the perspective of your customers, from the perspective of your suppliers. But you also got to know the pluses and minuses, where they think you're doing good, not doing good. And like you said, if somebody gave you feedback that you didn't like, it might be a quiet ride back to the crib.
Yep. You're gonna be sitting there listening to some sad songs.
Hold on, Doc. Is it worse if you put some sad music on, or if you turn no music on at all? Which one is worse? How do you know it's really deep?
It's really deep when you turn some sad songs come on, because if it's quiet, you really got time to just really think. But then if you turn on some music and the wrong song come on,
Yeah. So look, I'm not sure, for the purposes of what we're going through today, we could just getting too much into actual business description, like the detail. We'll put that in these worksheets, and everybody can, the people that want to go to this can fill them out, and really at their own pace, just kind of take it once, step by step. But for the people that right now, some of the things that I really want people to get over is the mentality of the mentality of the CEO approach. Mm-hmm. Because I take a butt whipping every day as I just got hit. It's the market is always going to tell you what they think.
Yeah.
And you don't get to determine when and how they tell you step on the scale. And they tell you in the terminology they want to tell you in too. You know what I mean? You don't get to, you know what I'm saying? So you're better off trying to figure out what it is, where your vulnerabilities all are, internally, yourself. And then go to people. Don't go to your girlfriends, ladies. Don't go to your mama. Cause look, I remember for a while I was working at a firm when I was in law school. And look, they were representing the cat that got charged with murder. And I think the murder was on video. Mm. And so they was going through the trial. And you know who was there saying what was in the video didn't happen?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. His mama. Because your mama don't never, man. So, but if you got a great idea, your business, and you say, okay, I'm an expert, you go to your mama, man, your mama's going to tell you an expert. That's not who you go to. To be a CEO. CEOs literally take feedback from everybody, whether they agree with it or not, and they're able to process it in a way that's in the best interest of their customers, not in the best interest of their ego. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really what I want people to take away. So as they work through these worksheets today, the old notion of, well, I got this great idea. Well, you might have a great idea. You do. Mm-hmm. But is the market going to look at this as a great idea? Or you might have a great idea. We get feedback inside the firm from people that say, well, this is what we think you should do. One of the most difficult things for me to do is tell them, without, killing their spirit, we've already tried that. It didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And y'all see that probably at the station, where y'all be like, I don't know where this management decision came from. This some BS, but sometimes when you get dig deeper, you realize, okay, they've tried some of that out.
Yeah.
Early on in this, before we get into sort of like the student side of it, I really feel like we got to get across to people that part of being a CEO there's a thick skin requirement.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not saying that it has nothing to do with gender. Mm-hmm. It really everybody. But it's not get your cheerleaders, get your people around you that's going to support you and tell you your ideas are great. That's fine. But when you're really trying to weigh this out, you're getting your information together, you have to be an expert. How do you know when you're an expert? When you've gotten feedback from people that don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. And you still have the ambition and the drive to persist.
Yep.
You feel me? And I think that's important. So we got a couple of people. She says, is there a market for your idea? And that's one of those things we're going to cover. I think that's a great point. Pat Sandell said, is there a market for your idea? And we will be talking about those in, I think, Thursday. We're doing a market analysis. And that's the stuff that kind of pumps me up because, when we came in as I just got hit, I didn't ask for permission. I did not say, okay, look, to the competitors, we come in here, we're going to do this. We wanted to figure out where there was a void in the market. What was it that we could do to fill that void and provide something to consumers that they needed that they weren't currently getting? And so that's one of the things we'll be working on later this week. And that's a little bit more of that class stuff. But I don't, you got to be careful when you try to tell people stuff's going to be class. Because I know I hated school, though. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. Well, look, man, we'll post some of these worksheets later today. I think we got them maybe 2 o'clock or something. We'll post them. Everybody can download the worksheets. We'll have some highlights from video coming later today from this. Just some of the questions and things so people can get into that. And then this week, we're starting to reach out to some of the experts, the boss ladies in H-Town, and getting their, some of their commitments to come on with us so we can start going through some of their individual stories. So hopefully you'll join me for that, Q.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready. The information is power.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is indeed. So I guess we'll leave it at that. Studio, if I let's see if I forgot anything. They just told me I froze earlier. Okay. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And then we'll keep this thing moving, man. So we'll talk to you. I guess we'll wrap with you sometime on Thursday.
Yeah, it is. Let's make it happen for America.
All right, brother. Be good, man.
All right, you too.
Peace out.